I was their firstborn, but I didn't see the light of this world much, for I was going to depart. The nurse had been working with me. Mother had given almost all she had. She lay helpless and did so for weeks after. Still, her faith was strong.
Mother had been praying and hoping her tiny baby would live, that it would grow strong and healthy and enjoy life.
She's not breathing.
Are we too late?
I'm afraid so.
But those elders and mother had faith that the Lord could restore me to health. The elders gave me the name Relia Shaw and asked the Lord to bless me. They said as they laid their hands on my head, I began to breathe. The valve in my heart wouldn't close. Finally, it had done so.
The Shaw family lived in the tiny town of Aurora, Utah. Relia's parents were Luda Blanche Ashby and Emeron Henry Shaw. In 1913, the Shaws were blessed with another child, a boy this time. Relia liked the baby just fine, except that night she didn't like the idea of being replaced. Each night before bed, she pleaded, "Put my little brother in the pig pen. I want to sleep with Mama." Relia did all the typical things little girls at that early, and it wasn't long before she was old enough to go to school.
When fall came, I was happy to start school. I thought my teacher was perfect. In fact, I thought all my teachers through district school were perfect. It would be so wonderful to be that perfect. Learning to read was a great thrill. It was fun in the first grade learning to knit, making washcloths for the soldiers in World War I. We also clipped old rags into little bits, and then the Red Cross made pillows of them. In the first and second grades, I went to school one half day. Through the other grades, one teacher handled two groups. I tried to be good in school. It broke my heart when I had to stay in after school when I was in the fourth grade. I couldn't write a poem. I couldn't make the lines rhyme. I was happy in the eighth grade to represent my class in arithmetic at the Severe Day in Richfield.
In 1925, Relia was happy to enter high school in Salina. During the first years, Relia was determined to be a successful student and spent much time studying at home. She earned A and B grades in most subjects, including chemistry, algebra, English, oral expression. She felt shy about giving the speeches required for the oral expression class. She would practice at home with her family as audience. Her work and determination was rewarded, and she did well enough to receive honorable mention awards at speech contests. The only D she received was in PE the first term of her freshman year. Relia never enjoyed participating in sports and other physical games, but she must have been embarrassed by the D because the next term she raised the grade to a B and continued to get C's and B's in PE. In spite of her hard work in school, when Relia was a child, she had only one dream of her future occupation.
When the threshing machine with a steam engine came pumping to the farm, I was frightened. But oh, the joy when the cook shack came. A little house on wheels pulled by horses. This was so interesting, and later the cook, the nice lady, took me inside. I was so delighted with the furnishings, the tables, stove, and benches that served double purpose, the chairs and storage place. Then and there I decided when I grew up, my profession would be cook for the threshers in a cook shack.
Relia graduated from North Sevier High School on May 16, 1929. And that fall, she headed off to Snow College in Ephraim. She lived with 3 other girls in the Thompson Apartments. And as a room full of girls will sometimes do, one evening they got rather silly.
It was one of those evenings during the winter quarter that 4 girls living in the Thompson apartment threw their studies aside and entered into a hilarious squabble. Zelda, a high-spirited girl, snatched the only pair of shoes I owned off of my feet and ran for the door. Bang! Bang! The shoes landed on the balcony.
Zelda, what have you done?
The balcony could be reached only by way of some very refined gentleman's rooms. I shuddered as I thought of the prospects of recovering my shoes. It would be hopeless to expect any of the girls to recover my shoes. They thought it was too good a joke. As to either of the gentlemen being interested enough to hunt the owner of the shoes, well, that was odd reason. I had once hoped I might be a modern Cinderella, but long since my judgment had taught me that no such thing would happen to such a red-headed, freckle-faced girl. After some time of anxiety and earnest pleading to my friends with no avail, I decided to face the worst. I tiptoed up the steps. Pausing at the door, listening and trembling, I could hear a number of voices. "They have company," I thought to myself. I'm going back. Well, what will I do? I have no shoes to wear to school. Throwing back my shoulders, I tapped on the door. In a few seconds, I stood stocking-footed before 3 wide-eyed gentlemen.
Excuse me, I paid for my shoes. The girls downstairs said they would play a joke on me and leave my shoes upon your balcony.
Leo Larson, a good-natured fellow, volunteered to get them and bolted for the door. I followed him. He seemed almost afraid of me. He hurriedly found the shoes and handed them cautiously to me with a somewhat bashful attitude, so it seemed to me. To my own quarters I happily returned, my heart singing, for I had recovered my shoes, and also I felt I had made friends with my neighbors. Yes, I had made friends, and the ice was broken. Not many evenings passed until numerous informal parties, squabbles, and chats occurred, with all the girls and fellows doing their part to make merry the times.
It seems the natural order of life for young adults in college is to pass through a phase of pulling practical jokes on friends. Relia and her roommates, as well as the refined gentlemen upstairs, were not immune. A series of jokes and retaliations began.
The girls, sneaking into the boys' apartment, used many safety pins to attach their blankets to the mattress.
The boys reciprocated by installing a small rubber hose from the upstairs apartment down the outside wall. Through the bedroom window, they put the end of the hose between the mattress and blankets of the double bed the girls shared. Later in the night, the boys poured water into the hose. Both girls woke with surprise, thinking that the other had an accident by wetting the bed.
After investigating, the girls immediately started planning the next battle
Of course, it was all in good fun.
and kept in good taste.
Leo and Relia finished their first year at Snow, but Leo didn't return to school in the fall. many trips on his bicycle the 20 miles from Mount Pleasant to Ephraim to visit friends, especially Relia.
It was during one of those visits that they started trading brooms.
One afternoon, I packed my suit and dress clothes in a box, tied them on my bike, and cycled to Ephraim, and there met Relia, and told her of my missionary call. College dances were such fun, and since there was a dance scheduled for that evening, we decided to don our dance togs and go. Not until we were on the floor dancing did we realize that though our association the previous year had been close, we had not gone to a dance or danced together. A very graceful dancer she is, I thought to myself. She danced just the way I like to dance. After the dance, we sat on the fence talking and playing. I was bashful, but finally got courage to say, "Kiss me." It must not have been a goodnight kiss, for we playfully lingered on.
Leo, say prunes.
Looking close at my face, she asked.
Say it again.
I started to say prudes, but only got to prune when Relia kissed me, and we both laughed.
Right then, a market was established of buying, selling, and trading prunes by the bushel.
Relia graduated from Snow College in 1931 with an associate's degree in education. Leo headed off on his mission. These were difficult and lonely times. Relia worked in Salt Lake and began to forget her stalwart mission.
I met friends from many different walks of life, with different ideas, standards, and religions. I was enjoying these friends immensely when they were giving me chances to go to the places and do the things I had always thought I wanted. Sometimes, however, I didn't approve of all the things that went on at the hilarious parties. For instance, drinking and smoking among both boys and girls. I found myself in company with a certain friend very often, 5 or 6 evenings out of the week. When I really stopped to think seriously of the situation I was getting myself into, I wondered if that was what I wanted. These friends were so different from my old friends. The more I thought of the situation, the more uneasy I became.
A few days later, Relia returned to Ephraim to attend commencement at Snow College, while in Aurora, that same weekend, she decided to receive her patriarchal blessing. This was a turning point in Relia's life.
I began finding joy in other things, searching for genealogy, visiting the library, attending the best meetings we could find, and visiting relatives. In July, I came home for 2 months. When I returned to Salt Lake, I found a new job in a different part of the city.
All this time, Leo hoped and prayed and worked hard on his mission. When he returned home, they still had to spend time being separated because Relia had agreed to pay for her brother, Lord's mission, so she had to work. At that time, began a tradition. We were lonesome and separated. To help bridge the gap of distance, the Sunday night date at 9 o'clock was started. No matter where we were or what we were doing, when the clock said 9 o'clock on Sunday, we each would stop for 5 minutes in meditation and think of the other. My date. When I come to the end of the Sabbath day with its lessons of wrong and right, there's nothing quite so inspiring to me as my date each Sunday night. As I come to the end of this day of rest, I think of the friends that are mine. Friends of worth and value are there, but all vanish at exactly 9. So I come to the end of a sacred day with a prayer for a sacred friend, with a hope that joy in life complete will be yours to the very end.
I enjoyed the date tonight just a few minutes ago. The night is grand, glorious, and peaceful after a storm. Deep white billows of snow have covered the ground. Trees are decked in gowns of beautiful white. Shrubs are glistening in the starlight. All seems at peace. Tonight I feel much better than I have all day, than I have for several days. Sort of calm and relieved after a struggle with heartaches and blues. Thanks a lot for the date, Leo. I'm so glad to have them to look forward to. Good night and sweet dreams. Love, Relia. Some years later, after marriage, we decided we would still keep our Sunday night at 9 if we were away from each other or parted in death.
Friendship had lasted 5 years. It was finally time for a commitment. It was the last day of June. Relia stopped to visit Leo en route from Salt Lake to home. They were seated on the Davenport. Leo brought out a book. It is a book he made. It was a compilation of different poems and writings he had sent.
Leo read his gems. As he neared the end, he became excited. His heart throbbed.
Relia's head was resting against Leo's chest with his one arm around her.
Why, Leo, your heart is running away with you.
Leo knew why, but answered nothing and continued to read. Finishing the piece, Leo gently laid the book aside, put his other arm around Relia, and a quivering voice said, "And now, Relia, I feel like I'd like to ask you to marry me."
Startled and nearly fainting, I looked at him, then snuggled down and said very sweetly, very softly, but very definitely, yes.
Leo heaved a sigh and then said, "Will you kiss me?"
Very awkwardly, due to lack of practice. After several years without kissing, one soon loses the art. But ever so sincerely and virtuously, we kissed, sealing our affection and love to each other.
Then Relia began to cry. She said it was for joy. All at once, she jumped up to her feet and looked at the clock.
It's 12:45 a.m. That makes it July 1st.
Shortly afterward, they retired, but before doing so, they knelt in prayer and thanked God for their association.
At the door, Leo said, "Kiss me goodnight."
This time, it was natural, getting back to practice in a hurry. Then they happened to remember the fruit market had been closed for years and immediately opened the market again. The depleted supply was soon renewed, and they laughed again.
Finally, Leo pinched my cheek, saying, "I love you," and closed the door.
I took the 16 steps upstairs to my bedroom in 2 leaps. I was so happy I was flying. Relia and Leo were married on June 8, 1937, in the Manti Temple.
The ceremony at the altar was most thrilling and wonderful. Oh, the great joy that came to me as President R.D. Young, with his booming, meaningful voice, pronounced us man and wife for time and all eternity. It was the most wonderful feeling.
Then as President Young proceeded to give us promises of joy and rejoicing in our posterity, I felt like the whole world had stopped and was rejoicing with us in that special moment of our lives. Relia was crying. She said it was because she was happy.
Thus, a new family was organized.
We started life together as the Leo Christian and Relia Shaw Larson family.
And that, dear friends, is only the beginning.